In this video, I'm going to explain to you how to choose skis for long-distance cross-country ski expeditions into extremely cold conditions in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, and even Antarctica. These skis here have seen a lot of service. They've got a couple thousand miles on them, and you can see I've had to glue them and do all sorts of things to them, but there are just a couple of factors that you want to consider when purchasing skis for a long-distance cross-country expedition. The first and most critical thing is you need to make sure that the ski matches your weight. When I first started expeditioning, I was in San Diego, I bought it from a local ski shop. Oh yeah, you need the biggest ski you can possibly use because you're going to be in Yellowstone, the snow's going to be soft, and you're going to sink. Those skis were rated for somebody that's 200 pounds. Now, if I didn't have all the gloves and things in my jacket, I wouldn't look like I weigh 200 pounds. I'm about 160, 165. So the person who sold me those skis said, oh yeah, this will work great. Utter and complete failure. Those skis were an utter and complete failure because they were designed for somebody who was over 200 pounds. And so what happened was that, if I can chop my head here, is that the traction base on the ski, when I sat down, the camber in the ski did not sink down enough to where I had no traction, and I was literally doing the Scooby-Doo Wile E. Coyote running in place thing. So I ended up having to snowshoe across Yellowstone for 105 miles. That was a good lesson. When you go to the ski shop, hey, I need some skis. Oh, what are you going to be doing? Oh, you need the biggest thing possible. No. You don't want that because the skis aren't going to work well for your weight. Cross-country skis traditionally, and I'll put a comment below otherwise, are designed for the weight of the skier. So if I'm really light and I can't flex these skis to engage this kicker skin in the bottom, I'm going to be going nowhere. So the key, the absolute critical choice among everything else is you want to make sure for cross-country long-distance travel, the skis match your weight so they flex properly and engage the bottom pattern. And that brings me to the next point. Thank you very much, YouTube subscribers, for suggesting this. Is mention that there are two fundamental patterns or styles of traction for cross-country skis because you can see on the bottom here, this area right here is glide surface. This glide surface is where you get, well, your ski glide, which is great for moving, but you also need traction. There are two fundamental ways to do this. I have what are called kicker skins on my skis, and they cover only what's called the kick zone for when I step down. This little pattern here, you can see the fuzz. It slides easily one way, and then is sticky the other. That's my favorite style. It's, I would say, much more efficient than track pattern based skis where you have fish scales or little wedges. Those work okay like on my Rossignol BC90s, but kicker skins are what you want to use if you're using long distance travel because they're so much more grippy and they don't wear down over time like the track pattern does. And you can see I've screwed mine on here because eventually this glue, you snag the ski, it pulls off the skin. Now, for long distance travel, you also do not want to use full length skins because that means you're dragging your ski the whole time. It's great for downhill skiing and climbing hills, but for long distance travel, full skins that cover the whole ski, forget it. Now, there are a couple of different designs of kicker skins attachments. The tail always just comes on and sticks, but if you don't want any problems, trust me, put a whole bunch of screws on here so you don't pull the skin off because once it gets covered in ice, you're toast. But these Melsness skis from Norway have this little plate here that sticks through and it makes the skin attached to the front and it barely builds up any drag at all. The styles that strap around your skis, not that great because those straps around there start to build up ice over time and you end up with this massive ice ball you got to fight. Not pleasant. The kicker skin, in my humble opinion, is the best way to go because you get ultimate traction while still getting plenty of glide And this works for me far better than the track pattern fish scales on the bottom of my other skis, because I can tow 330 pounds of sleds across any area, no problem. With my track patterns, I really have to push and pull, and it's a real workout. So if you can get skis with integrated kicker skins, that's the sweetest way to go. The next factor to consider is the width of the ski. These are, I think, 90 millimeter skis, and remember where they're marked here. And they're a good width. They work quite well. If you use really fat skis, that's more for downhill skiing. You end up with a lot of ski that you gotta kind of duck walk with, and it's not that good. Long distance for Nordic skiing, the 60 millimeter, those are too narrow because you're going to be wearing some sort of crazy polar boot. And you can see my boot here. And let me see if I can put my boot on my 3-pin binding. I'll show you that in a moment. If I can get that jammed on there. There we go. You can see just how big my boot is on my ski. And I'll hook this loop around, lock it in, and there it goes. It works incredibly well. I still would actually like a wider ski because there's no ankle support in these boots and your foot flops around a lot. That's why you need to do ankle exercises. But any wider of a ski, and there's just too much drag. So that's a tough consideration. These Austin skis are designed for long distance travel, thousands of miles. You can see I've chipped through the epoxy edge and everything, but the steel edge has really survived well. So let me also talk about another point of when you're choosing your cross-country skis, before we get into the two binding styles, what you want to choose is you want to make sure that your skis have steel all the way to the very tail of this ski, all the way to the tip of the ski and around the ski. You can see the steel here. And the reason for that is it protects the edges of the ski from getting beat up and cracking. Because I love my Rossignol BC90 skis, but the steel stops well before the tail of the ski, and I have chipped and broken up the tail of my skis quite a bit. These have seen some serious punishment, and you can see they're well intact here. So make sure that the steel runs all the way from the tip or the tail of the ski all the way to the tip and around the ski, because if you break the tip off your ski, you're toast. You also don't want a downhill ski that has just a slight incline, or I don't know what the actual angle on this is called for ski people. Leave a comment, but you want to make sure if it's too flat, you're going to run into ice and start digging your ski in. You don't want that. So this tip raise here is actually quite high, and that makes it much easier to get through mounds and snow and whatnot. So that is a big factor. Also, there is a groove channel here that makes it much easier to stay straight rather than waggling along. You want to make sure your ski has some sort of groove channel. And also you're going to need to get glob stop from Black Diamond. I'll put a link below that you put on this kicker skin so it prevents it from building up ice. And then you're going to need glide wax for the smooth part of the ski, the glide surface, because over time, real cold snow is coarse and sharp and it actually shreds the wax off. And as that wax wears down, you're going to be fighting your ski more and more. Now, there are two fundamental binding types on skis that you will use. This is the 3-pin 75 millimeter style old school Nordic. And the reason I chose that, you can see the holes on the boot here, is because if anything went wrong when I'm way out there, I could probably jimmy something together to keep going. The triple-in binding system, which is a bar that you put your boot on, is very popular. It's way faster to step into. You just literally lean down, put your toe in, press, click, and you're in. And to get out, you just push your ski pole. It's way easier to get in and out of. The big risk of that is, one, that mechanism could get full of ice and solidify in the binding system, and I've had that happen, and it's miserable. It is a bear to chisel apart, that triple-in binding. If it gets full of ice, had it happen on my skis and other friends, people out. And man, you got to get in there with a multi-tool. Hopefully you brought it and chisel that out to get your boot in. This, there's nothing really, you can get a little bit of ice around the 3 pins here, and you can get ice in the holes in the boot, but I can take, hoping my ski doesn't fall over, I can take the tip of my ski pole and simply grind out the ice in here, and there's steel in this, it's not just rubber, there's steel in there, and I've been able to grind out that ice, and I've never had a problem, unlike my triple N bindings, where, man, once that thing ices up, oh gosh, it's brutal. Also, there's little parts on here that make it much easier for me to mount the ski and do that. So this is definitely harder to get in there, but with this strap in the back, you want to make sure for long distance skiing you have this extra strap in the back, because that gives you more attachment to the ski, and the lift and kick is more efficient when you're traveling hundreds of miles rather than the toe attachment, because the slight wiggle over time will lose efficiency. It's only a tiny percent, but over hundreds of miles that makes a big difference. Also, your foot must be over this little stop, otherwise you sit backwards. You'll need to have this professionally mounted. I've never done my own because the boot has to be in just the right spot. You cannot have the ski binding mounted without the boot, because if the binding is in the wrong position and you pick up your ski, like right here in my toes, you'll see that the ski is pretty balanced. If you put it too far forward, the ski always tips up, and if you put it too far back, the ski will always tip down. So a professional ski shop who does cross-country skis needs your boots, and they will mount these correctly. If you're going on a really long expedition, you're going to be able to want maybe to bring an extra screwdriver or something, because if you have to deal with that binding and you have to for some reason take it off, these Phillips screws in here are incredibly tough to remove. Your multi-tool will break. You have to have a heavy duty number 3 Phillips screwdriver to get this thing out. It's like almost impossible. So if your ski breaks, you're in real trouble. The only other thing that you want to know about your ski is the styling of the top, which is pretty cool, but you also want to make sure to bring some JB weld for repairs, because I had to do this repair in Antarctica, because over time of just stumbling on the ice and whacking my skis together, it exposed, you can see it's happened again, the wood. And if water gets into that wood, it actually can happen when it's super cold and that water begins expanding and contracting, your skis will literally slowly explode. So these are my favorite design bindings, old school, but highly effective, efficient, and I would argue basically bulletproof. These these Ausnes backcountry skis and Nansen design are incredible. One other thing for choosing skis is also your matching ski poles. For long-distance cross-country skiing, you want a good long pole because you need enough pole to where you can push off behind you. A short pole for long-distance cross-country skiing will not be helpful. Also, for let's say just cross-country skiing, we're talking about long-distance. For long-distance skiing, you do not want a telescoping pole because that's extra weight that you're just going to have to haul. You will never be adjusting that length of your pole. So get these guys that are good and long so you get a good push off. Now, there are two types. There are the aluminum. These are my Alpina skis, or my Alpina poles. I've got 140 centimeters. They work really well. They're aluminum. Some people prefer the carbon fiber poles because they are lighter, they are more rigid. But if you slightly flex and you snag that carbon fiber and it crunches or cracks, you're done. I've bent my ski pole and I was able to recover it, but I've seen busted carbon fiber out in the wilderness. I've never seen broken aluminum. You know, I'm sure somebody will tell me otherwise. And that's the thing about that. I prefer the aluminum because The carbon fiber is stiffer, but if it flexes too much and crunches, you're toast. The aluminum has a little bit more, shall we say, resilience in the outdoors. Also, you want to make sure you get a good, nice basket. Mine got squished in shipping, and so it's got this permanent warp. If for long distance you don't want tiny baskets, we're not ski racing, we're towing. So that is consideration. These carbide tips are all standard. You just want very light, svelte handles. You don't need these crazy knobs and all that junk, because you're going to be doing the classic hand through the strap, hold it like a teacup, and when you push, the strap can come out here, and it's very easy. It should require no force. If you put your hand through the straps here, you're always going to have to grip this thing, and it's going to wear you out. By properly putting your hand upwards through the strap, so it's around your wrist, and you just grab your poles. It works great with huge gloves, and it's very easy. You can let it dangle, and it's far less work. So those are the factors you want to consider when choosing your cross-country long-distance skis and your ski poles as well as a bonus. Again, thank you to my YouTube subscriber for suggesting the video on, hey, can you explain outdoor backcountry long-distance skis? Also, please leave a comment below, and for my members on my channel and priority subscribers, check out links into the, was it called the community on YouTube or whatever it is on Rumble. Please check that out. If you're a part of my community and a subscriber and a member of my channel, of course I'll give you priority and generate anything you want. Please leave comments below and let me know other ideas for outdoor cold adventure and travel things that you'd love to know about, so I can share my experience and make your life better and help you have more fun out there. Also, check my link to my book, How to Keep Your Feet Warm in the Cold. It's a seminal book on keeping your feet warm in the crazy cold conditions. Over 100 tips to keep your tootsies warm so you don't freeze your toes off. And also check out my link to my book, Adventure Expedition 1. Tells you how to do all these things, expedition, adventure, camp, climb, hike in the outdoors. My name's Aaron Linstow. I'm a polar explorer and professional adventurer. Please like and comment on the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for watching, and enjoy the outdoors!